Victor Montagliani is the Vice President of FIFA and the President of CONCACAF and a proud Canadian. It was your idea to try to bring the World Cup to Canada many years ago and a lot of hard work. What does it mean now? Does it feel real that you have the schedule out, 13 games, 7 in Vancouver, 6 in Toronto?
Yeah, it's definitely tangible. It's a great sort of progression on the scale. Obviously, once we get to the first game, that'll be another moment, but it's definitely tangible now in terms of, Vancouver, Toronto having their pathway in terms of the games they play. And, I think now it's a great way to sort of build momentum in our country over the next 2 years and 3 months, I guess. Yeah.
Canada's in a unique and challenging position among the 3 nations that are hosting this event, just because the 2 host cities are 3,300 kilometers apart. So what went into your decision-making to have Canada play its opener in Toronto, then to go to Vancouver for the next 2 games?
Yeah, I mean, we would have, you have to start on one side or the other, obviously, but it was important that there'll be, so because they're going to go over to Vancouver, they'll have an extra rest day. So likely right after the game, they charter to Vancouver, gain the 3 hours as well. Well, obviously when you fly west, and they'll have an extra rest day. And then, if they're successful and win the group, they stay on the West Coast.
Was there consultation with the coaches, even the players on this?
Yeah, there was consultation. It actually started with John Herdman when he was the coach. And then obviously then we progressed that to Mauro when he became the coach. Because as you see with 104 games, we didn't get it right on the first draft. It took a few drafts to get it to where we were today when we announced it.
Is there any concern? I know when the coaches met with FIFA after Qatar that the one concern was excessive travel. So you have Canada and its opponent having to travel the longest flight that anybody will take all the way to Vancouver. Was there any concern about a competitive disadvantage there?
No, this is why you put in the extra rest day, right? And it's in the group stage. It's your first game. I don't know how the teams will do it. I know how I would think about doing it was in terms of where you would train before your first game, and then you could just come back to where you were. But those are all logistics each team has to figure out. But in terms of because we allow the first an extra rest day, we're comfortable with it.
Now, the other 2 teams in the group, just to get into the weeds of this, are they going to be in Vancouver the entire time?
Yeah, it is in the weeds, but obviously, I'm just trying to think. They may be there, but they also may be somewhere else because don't forget the groups move up and down. It's not an east-west thing.
So it could be Seattle, but they're not making
Correct.
the same flight from Toronto to Vancouver. That's Canada and its one opponent.
Likely will not. No.
Right. As far as the decision-making, did you want to equalize it? Was the idea give Toronto the opener and then give Vancouver that extra game in the round of 16?
Yeah, that all comes into play. Vancouver obviously has a great venue. I mean, Toronto, has done a lot of work and is doing a lot of work to get their venue up to that standard. But we needed to balance sort of the realities of Canada, and I think the schedule does that.
So if Canada does well, and if it gets out of the group, is there potential for Canada to play again in Vancouver in that round of 32 and potentially in the round of 16?
Yes, potentially. If they win the group, they get rewarded in terms of staying put or not traveling very far. And so that potential is there, but you have to win the group. If you don't win the group, all bets are off.
So win the group, they will play in Vancouver the round of 32. Win the round of 32 in Vancouver, they'll stay in Vancouver for the round of 16.
They'll stay in the West Coast and likely in Vancouver, but we would have to see how that plays out.
Okay. You have a stadium that's World Cup ready in Vancouver. In Toronto, BMO needs some work. Where are we at with renovations there?
I was in Toronto on Thursday. I spent a day, met with the city of Toronto, met with the mayor. She was fantastic, very excited. And we're in very good shape in Toronto in terms of being ready to kick off the first game in 2026.
So Mexico City gets the opening game of the tournament, and
Yes.
the Americans get the final in New York, New Jersey. Is there something for Canada in there, potentially hosting the draw, say?
Yeah, there's a process with all this stuff. I think, I know that, we have actually, FIFA has put out an RFP to see who the host city will be for the draw. That process is going on right now. I think the sort of bids have come in from the cities that want to host the draw, and the staff will go through it, do their due diligence, and then we'll also obviously have a meeting at some point here in the next little while to see how those bids came in, and we make a decision.
And I know we're 2 years away, but I also know after this announcement today, you're going to have fans all across Canada going to say, how do I get tickets? So if I'm sitting in Nova Scotia or Saskatchewan, how is that going to work as far as allotment of tickets for these games, particularly the Canadian games?
Yeah, it'll be no different in terms of the system as any previous World Cup. There'll be a lottery system for the fans. Obviously, there'll be also hospitality packages for the corporate sector to step up to, whether it be Toronto or Vancouver. So that's a way as well from a corporate standpoint. But a fan will be the lottery system that we've used in every World Cup that I know. And that's really the way, because the reality of demands are, I don't think we've nailed down the exact amount of available tickets to the public. But, as you heard the president say today, there'll be about 6 million tickets. Now, whether all of them will be available to the public, we still have to figure that out. But there'll be a significant amount of tickets. In an example, in Doha, there was 3.5 million. And, the lottery system had, I think, over 12 to 14 million people come in and request tickets. So, it is the biggest, not only sporting event, but the biggest event in the world. And the demand's high, whether it's from a Canadian perspective or global perspective.
Well, listen, I know lots of work to be done, but exciting day today, and we thank you for your time.
Thanks, James.